My fiancé slept with my cousin weeks before the weddings. So I vanished from their lives, and what happened? Next, destroyed their perfect image. I'm a 29-year-old guy, and I thought I'd finally found the woman I'd spend my life with. I've never been the kind of person who rushes into things. My life's been simple: a stable job in a small apartment I worked years to afford, and a family that raised me to believe loyalty and honesty were the foundation of everything. It wasn't flashy, just steady. The kind of man who kept promises. And when I met Emily, I thought I'd finally met someone who valued the same things. Emily was different. She had this calm elegance about her, graceful without trying, kind without effort. Everyone loved her. My mom would beam whenever she came over. My dad would tease that she had class, and my friends said I'd finally outkicked my coverage. Even my cousins, especially Jake, couldn't stop saying how lucky I was. I guess I took pride in that. It felt good knowing I'd found someone who fit so seamlessly into my life. We'd been together for 3 years, and everything just clicked. We planned trips we couldn't afford, laughed about baby names we didn't need yet, and spent Sunday mornings wrapped in each other's quiet routine coffee, playlists, and plans for the future. Every time she looked at me, I saw the life I'd always dreamed of. Our wedding was only a few weeks away. The invitations were out, the tuxes fitted, the venue booked. My mom cried when she saw Emily in her dress, and I thought I might too. I'd never been so certain about anything. Everything from her smile to the way she said my name felt like home. Didn't know then that the same people smiling beside me were already holding a secret that would burn my entire world down. Fit into my family like she'd been born there. My mom called her the daughter I never had, and my dad would brag about her to anyone who'd listen. Sunday dinners became her stage. She'd charm everyone with her warmth and humor, while I just sat there, proud and stupidly in love. My parents joked that we were the golden couple, the ones who'd finally bring some joy and stability into the family. And honestly, I believed it. Then there was my cousin, Jake, the kind of guy who could walk into any room and steal the spotlight without trying. He was my opposite, confident, loud, and dangerously charming. He'd been part of my life forever, like the brother I never asked for. When he first met Emily, he flashed that easy grin and said, "Man, you really hit the jackpot." At the time, I laughed. If only I'd known how close he'd get to it. Jake became surprisingly involved in the wedding plans. At first, it made sense. He was family, the best man, always eager to help. But soon, I started noticing how often Emily and Jake were texting. Just sorting out logistics, she'd say, showing me messages about decorations or playlists. And maybe they were, but sometimes I'd walk in on them, sharing little inside jokes, whispering, laughing in that quiet, comfortable way that made me feel excluded. I brushed it off. Emily loved me. Jake was family. What could possibly be wrong? Still, that uneasy feeling crept in during every interaction, like a shadow in the corner of my eye I couldn't quite shake. One night, as we all sat around the table, Jake made a joke only Emily understood. She laughed too hard, too long, while everyone else looked confused. I smiled to keep the peace, but something inside me sank, like a tiny crack forming in the perfect picture. I thought we had dot. It started small, little things that didn't make sense, but didn't seem worth fighting over. Emily began guarding her phone more than usual. Before, she'd leave it on the counter, open and buzzing. Now, it was always face down, notifications muted. I told myself it was wedding stress, maybe anxiety. Everyone said planning a wedding could make even the happiest couple snap. But deep down, something felt off. I noticed she spent a lot more time running errands. Sometimes she'd disappear for hours, claiming she was meeting vendors or finalizing floral arrangements. When I offered to join, she'd smile gently and say, "You've got enough on your plate, babe. Let me handle this." It was such a small thing, but her tone, too soft, too careful, left an echo I couldn't ignore. Jake started popping up more often too. He'd swing by unannounced, always with some excuse, checking in on me, dropping off something for Emily, grabbing a beer. He'd lean against the counter, joke around like everything was normal, and she'd laugh like he was her personal comedian. I'd stand there watching them interact, and for a split second, I'd feel invisible in my own home. "Man, don't look so serious," Jake said one night, clapping me on the shoulder. "We're just having fun," Emily added. "You worry too much." They both laughed. I forced a grin, swallowing the knot in my throat. A week later, while she was in the shower, her phone lit up with a message from Jake. I wasn't snooping, it just caught my eye. It said, "Can't stop thinking about earlier." My hands went cold. I told myself it must be a joke, an inside reference I didn't understand. But as I stood there, staring at that glowing screen, I felt something shift, the first whisper of betrayal I could no longer ignore. The next morning, I tried to act normal, but something inside me had cracked. Every time Emily smiled, I questioned it. Every time Jake texted, my stomach twisted. Still, I didn't want to believe what my mind was screaming. I'd spent 3 years trusting this woman. I wasn't ready to become the paranoid fiancé who checked her phone behind her back. That evening, while we were cooking, I asked gently, "Hey, are you and Jake talking a lot lately?" She froze for half a second, so quick I almost missed it, then laughed. "Oh my God, you're jealous of Jake," she said, rolling her eyes. "He's like your brother, babe." Her tone was playful, but her eyes didn't match. When I pressed again, she sighed. "You're being paranoid. He's just helping me with wedding stuff. If you can't trust me, maybe we shouldn't be getting married." Her words hit harder than I expected. Somehow, I was the problem now. The conversation ended with me apologizing for asking about my own cousin. I hated myself for it. Over the next week, everything felt slightly off. Emily grew distant, shorter texts, cold shoulders, 2 tired excuses. Jake kept showing up like nothing was wrong, always too comfortable, too confident. He'd slap me on the back and say, "Relax, man. You've got the perfect girl. Don't mess it up." Every word dripped with something I couldn't name but could feel. One night, after Emily borrowed my car to meet the planner, she came home smelling faintly of cologne, not mine. I asked about it, and she snapped, "Do you ever stop interrogating me?" She stormed off before I could answer. Hours later, I went to grab something from her car. On the passenger seat was Jake's hoodie. That's when denial finally gave way to dread. My hands shook as I held it, and for the first time, I realized I might be living in a lie. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying every laugh, every glance, every late-night errand. My mind ran in circles, searching for any explanation that didn't involve betrayal. Maybe Jake left his hoodie there by accident. Maybe I was losing it. But deep down, I already knew the truth. I just needed proof. The next day, while Emily was at work, I sat at my desk pretending to focus on spreadsheets, but my heart was pounding. I finally opened her laptop. She'd left it on the kitchen counter, unlocked. I wasn't proud of what I was doing, but I felt like a man drowning, grabbing at anything that might keep him afloat. At first, there was nothing unusual. Then, I checked her messages. My stomach dropped. Dozens of texts between her and Jake, some innocent, others not compliments that crossed lines, flirty jokes, then pictures. One of her in the mirror, smiling in my shirt, his reply, "God, I wish I was there right now." I scrolled further, and it got worse. Plans to sneak a few hours together. Mentions of nights I thought she'd been out with friends. My heart pounded so loud I could hear it echo. Every word was a knife. When she got home that evening, I was sitting on the couch, phone in hand, staring at the screen. She looked startled. "What's wrong?" she asked, feigning innocence. I almost confronted her right there, but something in me held back. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was the realization that exploding in anger would only make me look like the fool. So I stood up, handed her the phone, and said quietly, "You forgot to close your messages." Her face went pale. She didn't say a word, just turned away, trembling. That was the moment I decided I wouldn't confront them. I'd let them believe they'd won. Because now, I wasn't planning a wedding anymore. I was planning something else entirely. After that night, everything changed, at least for me. Outwardly, I played my part perfectly. I smiled, kissed her good morning, and asked about the wedding plans. But inside, something in me had gone completely still. It wasn't rage anymore. It was focus. Cold, quiet focus. Emily seemed uneasy, like she could feel the shift, but couldn't name it. She kept asking, "Are you okay? You've been so distant lately." I'd smile and say, "Just tired." Every time she looked into my eyes, I knew she was searching for signs that I knew. She had no idea I'd already read every message, seen every lie. Meanwhile, Jake kept showing up laughing, drinking my beer, pretending to be my best man. He'd slap my shoulder and say, "Big day's coming, man. You nervous?" I'd laugh with him, even clink my bottle against his, pretending everything was fine. Inside, every word he said made my skin crawl. But I kept my cool. Instead of confronting them, I started gathering proof, screenshots, call logs, pictures. I even planted a small recorder in my car, just in case. If I was going to burn their perfect image to the ground, I'd make sure there was no way out for either of them. Then one night, while checking Emily's phone backup, I stumbled on a message thread that made my chest tighten. Jake had written, "If he ever finds out, we'll just run. You and me. We don't owe him anything." Her reply came minutes later, "We just have to make it through the wedding. After that, no one can stop us." I stared at those words for a long time, my reflection glowing on the screen. They weren't just cheating on me, they were planning a future together. And at that moment, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I wasn't going to expose them. I was going to disappear. The plan was simple: become a ghost. I cleaned out my closet like I was erasing myself, shirts folded, photos tucked into an envelope I didn't open. The engagement ring I'd worn every day set into a drawer and left there. I changed passwords, deleted social media, and untagged every photo where Emily and I smiled like the future hadn't been stolen. The hardest part wasn't leaving the apartment. It was leaving the life we'd built, the tiny rituals that used to mean everything. The kettle whistle, the bruise on the couch from moving it a year ago, the way her perfume still clung to the coat she'd left. I walked past all of it and stepped into the street like someone else's memory. I left no note. I called no one. When my phone rang, I let it go to voicemail until the battery died. I packed only what I needed in a duffel bag: a toothbrush, a change of clothes, my passport tucked between two shirts. The train station smelled like diesel and old paperbacks. The hum of the tracks felt like a metronome for the life I was taking away. I boarded the first train that would take me far enough that their gossip wouldn't reach me in an instant. At first, it felt like relief, a clean, sharpening silence that replaced the ache. News of my disappearance spread like a stain. My mother texted and then vented in a voice message full of frightened, disbelieving sobs. Friends called, then stopped. Emily and Jake panicked publicly. Frantic posts, frantic calls, tearful pleas to anyone who would listen. The wedding planners canceled the ceremony. Our venue called to ask if there had been a fight. Rumors bloomed overnight. Someone called the local paper with a version of events I hadn't consented to. From a rented room in a town 3 hours away, I watched the feed as their faces crumbled under the microscope. I didn't post. I didn't answer. I let them step into the light and flail. They wanted attention. I gave them silence. Then, late one night, a message slid into an email account I hadn't told anyone about. It was from someone I never expected. The message came from my best friend, Mark. He'd written, "Man, I don't know what happened, but things are blowing up here. You might want to see this." Attached were screenshots, Facebook posts, group chats, whispers spreading through the family like wildfire. Emily and Jake had tried to play innocent at first, claiming I'd had a mental breakdown and run off because of stress. But people weren't buying it. My sudden disappearance had turned into fuel for gossip, and cracks were showing in their story. Someone had leaked a few of the messages. I'd quietly backed up before leaving texts between Emily and Jake that were a little too affectionate for cousins-in-law. No one knew where they'd come from. I didn't need to. The proof was out there, and that was enough. Mark said the family group chat was chaos. My mom was heartbroken, my dad furious, and Jake's parents were demanding answers. Emily had tried to host a small gathering to clear the air, but someone showed them the screenshots. The perfect bride act shattered right there in front of everyone. She started crying, Mark told me later on a call, begging people to believe her. But Jake just stood there, didn't even defend her. He looked done. Over the next few weeks, their reputations fell apart. Friends stopped showing up. Emily's coworkers whispered behind her back. Jake's boss, who'd seen the drama online, called his behavior unprofessional and let him go. Their perfect image, the golden couple who'd betrayed me, was turning to ash. From my quiet room miles away, I watched it all unfold online. I didn't gloat. I didn't text anyone. I just sat there in the glow of my laptop screen, realizing the universe didn't need my help to destroy them. It was already doing the job beautifully. But I also knew karma wasn't done yet, not even close. Months passed, and I thought the noise would fade, but it only got louder for them. The affair had gone public enough that everyone knew. Their families tried to patch things up, but guilt has a way of sticking to people like smoke. Emily's parents stopped speaking to her altogether. Jake's family, mine, couldn't look me in the eye whenever they heard my name. They'd raised him like a son, proud of his charm and ambition. Now, that same charm was a curse. I heard through Mark that they'd moved in together after being pushed out of every family circle. But the fairy tale ended fast. Jake couldn't keep a job. His reputation was poison. Emily lost her friends, the same ones who once gushed about how perfect we were. They started arguing constantly. Neighbors complained about shouting matches, things breaking, Emily crying in the hallway. Part of me wanted to feel satisfaction. I wanted to think they deserved this. But when I saw a photo someone tagged me in, Jake and Emily at a cheap diner, faces hollow, her eyes red, I didn't feel joy, just emptiness. I had loved that woman once. I had trusted that man like family. Now, they were ghosts of the people I used to know. One night, I sat alone in my rented room, staring at an untouched plate of dinner. The walls felt smaller than usual, the silence heavier. I'd won, I guess. But what kind of victory was this? Revenge doesn't heal the wound, it just stops the bleeding. That was my rock bottom. Not when I lost Emily, but when I realized I'd lost myself too. The betrayal had consumed every corner of who I was, and I didn't know how to move forward, or if I even wanted to. Then one day, I got a call from my mother that changed everything. When my mom called, her voice was softer than I remembered, fragile, almost trembling. "Honey," she said, "your dad's birthday's coming up. Everyone's asking if you'll come home, even Jake's parents." I hesitated. The idea of walking back into that world, into the same house where Emily once laughed beside me, made my stomach twist. But something in my mom's voice broke through the bitterness. Maybe it was time. Not for them. For me, a week later, I drove back. The town looked smaller somehow, like time had shrunk it while I was gone. When I pulled into my parents' driveway, my mom burst into tears, holding me so tightly it hurt. "You didn't deserve any of this," she whispered. My dad, normally a man of few words, just said, "You handled it like a man." It wasn't pride in his tone, it was sorrow mixed with respect. That night, we had dinner, quiet, tense, until the doorbell rang, and there they were, Emily and Jake. She looked pale, thinner, her confidence stripped away. Jake's once cocky grin had vanished. My mom gasped, but didn't stop them from coming in. We needed to talk," Emily said softly, avoiding my eyes. Jake mumbled, "We messed up, man." "We know?" He couldn't even look at me. Emily reached out, tears forming. "I'm so sorry. I don't even recognize myself anymore. You didn't deserve what we did." I let them talk. Every word, every apology, spilled out like water over stone. And when they finished, I just stared at them, not with anger, but with something colder. "You already took everything that mattered," I said quietly. "I hope it was worth it." Emily sobbed, whispering, "Can you ever forgive me?" I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and walked toward the door. "You don't need my forgiveness," I said. "You need to live with what you did." And for the first time since everything fell apart, I felt light. After that night, everything spread like wildfire again. But this time, not because of rumors or half-truths. It was because people finally knew everything. My family had demanded the full story after Emily and Jake showed up, and I gave it to them quietly, calmly, without drama. I showed them the messages, the pictures, the proof I had collected before vanishing. There was no yelling, no tears, just the sound of disbelief echoing through the living room. My mom covered her mouth, whispering, "Oh my God." My dad just shook his head, muttering, "That boy was raised under my roof." Jake's parents looked like they'd been hit by a truck. They tried to speak to defend him, but when I showed the message where Jake wrote, "We'll just run away after the wedding," his mother broke down completely. No one defended them after that. Not one person. The same relatives who used to praise how perfect Emily and I were now looked at her like she was a stranger. Jake tried to act indifferent, but even he couldn't mask the humiliation. His father said coldly, "You've embarrassed this entire family." And that was it. Jake walked out without another word. his reputation dead in the room before he even closed the door. Emily stayed behind, trembling. She whispered, "I never wanted to hurt anyone." My mom, through tears, said, "Then why did you—" Emily couldn't answer. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The truth was out, and it spoke louder than any revenge could. Before leaving, I turned to everyone and said quietly, "I didn't disappear to punish anyone. I left because I couldn't breathe around the lies anymore." And as I walked out that door again, this time I wasn't running from pain. I was walking toward freedom. But healing, I soon learned, wasn't as simple as walking away. In the weeks that followed, life felt eerily quiet, like the world was giving me space to breathe again. For the first time in months, I woke up without dread, sitting heavy on my chest. I moved into a new apartment closer to the city, somewhere no one knew me, and started rebuilding from the ground up. New job, new friends, no reminders of what used to be, but healing wasn't some cinematic moment where everything suddenly made sense. It was slower, messier. Some nights I still caught myself reaching for my phone, wanting to text Emily before remembering she didn't exist in my life anymore. Therapy helped. I learned that betrayal doesn't just break your heart, it rewires it. I stopped blaming myself for trusting too much. I stopped replaying what-ifs. My therapist once told me, "Closure isn't something you wait for from others. It's something you decide to give yourself." I didn't understand it then, but I do now. Months later, I ran into an old friend who mentioned seeing Emily at a local grocery store. "She looked lost," he said quietly, like she was just surviving. I didn't ask about Jake. I didn't need to. Their story had already written its ending without me, sometimes late at night. I think back to the version of me who thought love meant sacrifice, who believed loyalty could fix anything. I don't hate him. I just wish he'd known that some people only understand love when it's too late. I'm not bitter anymore, just grateful. Grateful I got to start over before I became another broken man waiting for apologies that never heal. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. You don't always get revenge by destroying someone's life. Sometimes, the real revenge is rebuilding yours so beautifully. They'll never be part of it again.